3 years. 1,095 days. That was how long Emily Carter had arrived before sunrise, stayed after sunset, and treated Hawthorne Technologies like it was her own company. She never counted the weekends she sacrificed or the family dinners she missed. Every project she touched became a success, every impossible deadline somehow became possible because she refused to quit. Everyone in the office believed there was only one person worthy of the vacant senior operations manager position. Emily. So when the employees gathered in the conference room for the promotion announcement, they were already smiling at her. Even Emily allowed herself one small smile. She had earned this. The CEO, Daniel Hawthorne, stepped onto the stage with a confident expression. "I want to thank every employee for your dedication," he began. "This company grows because of people who give everything they have." Emily felt her heartbeat quicken. Then Daniel continued. "Our new senior operations manager is Ryan Mitchell." The room exploded with applause. Emily didn't clap. She couldn't. Ryan looked just as shocked as everyone else. He had only joined the company 8 months ago. He was talented, but even he knew Emily had carried the department for years. Daniel shook Ryan's hand while cameras flashed. Emily quietly picked up her notebook and walked out before anyone noticed the tears gathering in her eyes. For the first time in 3 years, she cried in the parking lot. Not because she lost a title. Because she had finally realized she was never truly seen. The next morning, she walked into Daniel's office holding a single envelope. "I'd like to resign." Daniel barely looked up from his laptop. "You don't have to make emotional decisions, Emily." "This isn't emotional," she replied calmly. "It's overdue." He sighed. "You'll change your mind." "I already have." She placed the resignation letter on his desk, turned around, and left without another word. Daniel assumed she'd cool off. After all, loyal employees always came back. But Emily didn't. Within 2 weeks she accepted an offer from a fast-growing competitor, Brightcore Solutions, where the CEO personally called to say, "People like you don't apply for jobs. Companies compete for you." For the first time in years, Emily felt respected. Meanwhile, Hawthorne Technologies slowly began to fall apart. The first project Ryan managed missed its deadline by nearly a month. Clients complained. Departments argued. 3 major customers transferred their contracts elsewhere. Daniel found himself asking the same question every day. How did everything fall apart so quickly? His assistant quietly answered. Emily handled most of it. Daniel frowned. "What do you mean most?" She opened a folder. Emily had created every workflow. She had trained nearly every department manager. She solved problems before they ever reached his desk. She even stayed late correcting mistakes made by other teams without asking for credit. Daniel stared at the documents in silence. He had never noticed. Not because Emily wasn't valuable. Because she made excellence look effortless. 3 months later, Daniel attended a national business conference. Across the exhibition hall he saw a familiar face. Emily. She stood confidently beside Brightcore's booth, surrounded by clients waiting to speak with her. She wasn't the quiet employee hiding behind reports anymore. She was leading presentations, negotiating million-dollar contracts, and smiling with genuine confidence. People respected her. People listened. Daniel watched from a distance, realizing he had never truly known the woman who had built half of his company's success. After the presentation ended, he walked toward her. "Emily." She turned. For a brief second, surprise crossed her face before it disappeared behind professional courtesy. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hawthorne. I've been trying to contact you. I changed my number." "I noticed." An awkward silence settled between them. Finally Daniel spoke. "I made a mistake. Emily waited. I underestimated everything you did. She smiled politely. I know. I want you back. She shook her head gently. No. I'll double your salary. No. I'll make you vice president. Emily looked directly into his eyes. You still don't understand. Daniel blinked. It was never about the money. She continued softly. I spent 3 years proving my value. The promotion wasn't important because of the title. It mattered because it represented respect. Daniel lowered his eyes. You didn't just promote someone else. You told me my loyalty wasn't worth seeing. Her words hit harder than any business loss. For the first time in years, Daniel had no answer. Emily extended her hand. I don't hate you. He shook it slowly. But some doors only open once. She smiled one last time before walking back toward her team. They greeted her with excitement, asking questions, laughing, treating her as someone whose opinions truly mattered. Daniel watched her disappear into the crowd. Only then did he understand the cost of taking good people for granted. Back at Hawthorne Technologies, Daniel began changing the company culture. Managers were trained to recognize quiet performers instead of only confident speakers. Employees received regular appreciation instead of annual promises. Promotions became transparent. But every improvement reminded him of one person. The woman who had inspired them only after she was gone. Months later, Hawthorne Technologies slowly recovered. Brightcore continued to grow even faster. Industry magazines credited much of that success to Emily Carter, now Director of Operations. When reporters asked about the secret behind her leadership, she simply smiled. The best leaders are often the people who were once overlooked. Her words spread across social media, inspiring thousands of professionals who felt invisible despite working their hardest. And somewhere in his office, Daniel clipped that interview from the magazine and placed it inside his desk drawer. Whenever he considered delaying recognition for another hardworking employee, he opened that drawer. One resignation letter had cost him his best employee. One overlooked promotion had taught him the most expensive lesson of his career. Because talent can be replaced. Experience can be hired. But loyalty, once broken, rarely comes back. 6 months after Emily left, Brightcore Solutions announced something that sent shockwaves through the industry. The company had secured the largest operations contract in its history, a 5-year partnership worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The project leader was Emily Carter. Business magazines praised her ability to transform struggling systems into high-performing organizations. Former co-workers smiled when they saw her on the cover of an industry publication. They weren't surprised. They had always known what she was capable of. Only one person wished he had realized it sooner. Daniel Hawthorne. Every time he saw Emily's name in the news, he felt the weight of a decision he could never undo. One afternoon, Hawthorne Technologies received an invitation to compete for another major contract. Winning it would restore the company's reputation. Losing it could push several important clients toward competitors. Daniel arrived at the client's headquarters with his executive team. As the conference room doors opened, he froze. Across the table sat Brightcore's negotiation team. Emily was leading it. She looked calm, confident, and completely at ease. Years ago she would have waited for Daniel to speak first. Now every executive in the room waited for her. The meeting lasted nearly 4 hours. Emily answered every technical question with remarkable clarity. She anticipated concerns before they were raised and offered practical solutions backed by data. Daniel couldn't help remembering all the meetings where she had quietly prepared every report while someone else received the praise. When the presentations ended, the client thanked both companies and promised to announce the winner within a week. As everyone packed their laptops, the client's chairman stopped Emily. Ms. Carter. Yes? I've attended business meetings for over 30 years. He smiled warmly. That was one of the finest presentations I've ever seen. Daniel watched as the entire room applauded. This time, Emily didn't have to imagine the recognition. She earned it in front of everyone. A week later, the results arrived. Brightcore won. Not by a small margin. By a unanimous decision. The chairman explained in his letter, Brightcore demonstrated exceptional leadership, preparation, and operational excellence. Daniel quietly folded the letter. He wasn't angry. He couldn't be. Emily had simply done what she had always done, deliver excellence. The difference was that someone had finally noticed. Months passed, and Hawthorne Technologies continued improving under Daniel's new leadership philosophy. Managers were required to recognize employee contributions publicly, mentorship programs were introduced, and promotions were based on measurable performance rather than office politics. One Friday afternoon, Daniel walked through the office and noticed a young analyst staying late. The scene reminded him of Emily. Instead of walking past, he stopped. "I've seen the work you've been doing." The employee looked surprised. "Thank you, sir. You've saved this department more than once." Those simple words brought tears to the young employee's eyes. Daniel realized something. Recognition cost nothing. Ignoring people cost everything. Nearly 2 years later, Emily attended an industry awards gala. When her name was announced as Executive Leader of the Year, the audience rose to its feet. The applause seemed endless. As she accepted the Crystal Award, she paused before speaking. "I wasn't always standing on stages." The room became silent. "There was a time when I believed working harder would automatically make people see my value." She smiled gently. "But I've learned something. Never stay where you're constantly asked to prove your worth. The right place won't just use your talent, it will celebrate it." The audience erupted into applause once again. Among the guests, Daniel stood and applauded the loudest. Not because he wished she had returned, but because she had become exactly who she was always meant to be. After the ceremony, their paths crossed one final time. Daniel smiled. "I'm proud of you." Emily smiled back. "Thank you. I used to think losing you was the worst thing that happened to my company." She waited. "Now I realize it was the best thing that happened to you." Emily nodded. Sometimes the greatest opportunities begin with the hardest goodbye. They shook hands, not as boss and employee, but as two professionals who had both grown from the same painful lesson. Daniel walked away with humility. Emily walked away with peace. Neither looked back. Because the story was never about revenge. It was about knowing your worth, having the courage to walk away when you're undervalued, and discovering that the right opportunities often begin the moment you stop settling for less. Sometimes, the promotion you never received becomes the reason you find the life you were truly meant to have.